Today, we're diving into a really powerful symbolic story for our time, a kind of theatrical parable set in a place called the City of Ash Hues. Now, this isn't just a place on a map, it's a condition. It's this chilling vision of what happens when a society reaches the absolute end of the road in its quest for comfort, where the final bill for all that vanity comes due. Okay, let's get into it. Pretty much everything you need to know about the city is right here, in this one strange phrase. The horizon is a circle. It immediately sets this mysterious, almost suffocating tone. The idea that no matter how far you run, you just end up right back where you started. But this isn't a geography problem. It's a spiritual one. The circle is really a mirror, reflecting the self's own dead ends. All right, Act 1. Our story begins. Let's step inside this bizarre city and see what it's really all about. So here's the thing you have to understand about Ash Hues. It's not a city of bricks and mortar, it's a city built from spiritual decay. It's the final stop for a society that decided to trade the messy, challenging spirit of becoming, that's the drive to grow and change, for a kind of hollow peace. The people there exist in this stupor of agreement, just to make sure no real challenge ever messes with their quiet lives. And they even have a name for this era of stagnation: the Great Evening. It's like the sun has permanently set on any kind of ambition, leaving this endless twilight where nothing ever happens. And the folks who live here, they're called the Long Tired. And we're not talking about I need a nap tired. We're talking about a soul-deep exhaustion, a complete spiritual burnout. Okay, on to Act 2. Now we're going to peel back another layer and find the hidden magic, if you can call it that keeps this whole system running and that circle closed. Okay, this might sound a little weird, but stick with me. The core operating system of this city is something called Fichtean necromancy. Basically, there's this old philosophical idea that we figure out who I am by looking at the world that is not I, the outside world. But in Ash Hues, that magic gets twisted. The outside world stops offering challenges or new things. It just reflects your own inner emptiness right back at you. And here's a brilliant way to picture it. Imagine the floor of the whole city is like a polished silver mirror. But what does it reflect? Just the same old, unchanging, stagnant ceiling. The world has lost all its flavor, its texture. It's become a tasteless broth because there's nothing out there. It's just an echo of what's inside. The peak is just a mirror of the valley. In this is maybe the most chilling part of it all. Ash Hues isn't a prison built by some evil king or an outside force. It is a cage they built for themselves. The walls, that circular horizon, the silver floor, all of it was constructed by the people living there, from the blueprints of their own minds. They are the architects and the prisoners of their own apathy.
So, if it's a prison they built themselves, what's the disease that keeps them from just walking out? Act 3 is all about diagnosing that deep spiritual sickness that plagues the Long Tired.
The source of this whole problem is described as this sweet, gray dust that's poisoning the wells. Think about that. Something that seems pleasant, maybe even comforting, but is slowly, quietly killing your spirit from the inside. And this decay is ruled by a force personified as the Prince of Sloth, whose only command is, hey, just play it safe. Let the roses turn to ash. This lays out the core conflict perfectly. On one hand, you've got what's called the will to power. That's our natural, active drive to struggle, to grow, to overcome. But on the other hand, in Ash Hues, that's been replaced by, get this, the will to nap. It's this total lethargic collapse into exhaustion. The people have made what's called the Great Refusal. They refuse the struggle of life itself. And here's the tragic journey of a soul in the city, the so-called metamorphoses of fatigue. You start out as a striver. You want to climb, you want to achieve something, but then comes that great refusal, that moment you decide, you know what, it's not worth it. And where do you end up? As the broken camel, a creature that isn't going anywhere, just carrying the crushing, dead weight of its own exhaustion. I mean, think about it. Why risk walking a dangerous tightrope high in the air when you can just lower the thing right down to the floor and walk across safely? That's the city's logic. They have consciously traded the whole dynamic process of becoming for immunity. Immunity from risk, from pain, from failure, and ultimately immunity from life itself, all while living in a gilded cage of pointless stuff. So that brings us to Act 4. And a pretty big question comes up, right? How does an entire society just let this happen? Is this some kind of accident, or Is someone keeping them this way on purpose? Well, it turns out there was a warning. A figure known as the soothsayer saw all this coming and tried to tell people about the long tiredness. But his message was intentionally suppressed, buried. And why? Because the dominant institutions, the marketplace, were terrified that if people actually acknowledged this spiritual emptiness, the whole system, their whole way of life, would crumble. So how exactly do you censor a spiritual void? Well, here's the playbook. First, you discredit the truth teller. You call his warnings heresy or just laugh it off as a jester's prank. Then, you provide endless distractions, wax fruit that looks real but offers no nourishment, a constant stream of tiny pleasures for the day and night. The truth isn't destroyed, it's just pushed into the shadows where no one looks. And it all comes down to this one powerful line: better to be a stone than a witness. Because being a witness, that's hard. It means you have to actually see the truth, and that is a heavy, heavy burden. It's so much easier to just be a stone, unfeeling, unmoving, unaware. It's what they call the happiness of the grave. Okay, let's head into our final act. We've talked about this soothsayer, the one they tried to silence. But it turns out he's not just some prophet of doom. His role is way more complex, and his return is going to force a choice that no one can escape. He's reframed here as the shadow savior. And that's key. His goal isn't to destroy the city, it's to destroy the illusion. He doesn't bring ruin, he just holds up a mirror and shows them the internal architecture of the cage. He shows the long-tired that they built their own prison, which is, of course, the first terrifying step towards actually being able to leave it. And this is where it all leads. The soothsayer's revelation forces this ultimate choice on everyone, and on us, really. On one side, you've got the cage of comfort. Safety, stagnation, the life of the broken camel on that polished silver floor. On the other side, you have the tightrope of becoming. Yeah, it's a struggle, but it's also about awareness, about climbing towards the sharp peaks where life has actual meaning. In the end, this parable doesn't give us a neat little answer. It just leaves us with the soothsayer's final provocative question. To burn could mean passion, life, striving, but it could also mean being consumed. To reflect the cold, honest gaze of the moon suggests clarity and truth, but maybe also a kind of cold detachment. The choice isn't between good and evil, it's between two very difficult paths. And which one actually leads out of Ash Hues? Well, that's the question we're all left to think about.